So was that part of the consideration of the project? I mean, from the outside, the house looks great and interesting. So do you consider like how much work is involved in terms of saving a house like that? Because if none of the original, what I would think are important parts of heritage aren't in there. Anyways, talk a bit about that.
Well, we knew when we were starting this thing that we would have to gut the interior of the house anyway. For one thing, we had no idea what was under the walls until we started, getting work done on this thing. But the other thing too is, the houses back then weren't built to meet today's seismic requirements, for instance, to deal with earthquakes and all the other things like that that are pretty standard in new buildings now. And the only way that you can upgrade, buildings today is to pretty much gut them. For instance, a lot of these old buildings were never bolted down to the foundations. They just simply built them on top of them. So if we'd have an earthquake, they'd just fall off.
Or a windstorm and just blow away.
Exactly. Yeah, so those are, you pretty much with these old homes, have to strip them down pretty much to the studs to see what you've got. A lot of the framing details, particularly homes that are a bit older than this one where they had balloon framing as opposed to conventional framing, just simply don't meet today's requirements for everything from snow loads to, as they say, seismic to, you name it.
So what about the veranda? It used to have a veranda, didn't it, around it?
Yeah.
Are you going to incorporate that into it?
Yep, absolutely. You can actually see it on the old photo there. And when we stripped back the drywall inside, we actually found the original siding behind it. So they just simply filled it in. So we'll be opening that up again, and it'll be restored to essentially what it looked like when we found the old photos in 1913.
And what about things like the brick and the fireplaces? Yep. I don't know if there were fireplaces in there. There must have been a fireplace from the 1900s, and then whatever else. So has that come with the house? Are you going to be adding those kind of...
Yeah, we found, I think, 4 fireplaces in the house, all of which have been pulled out and covered up. And so we've saved all the bricks, and we'll be using those bricks to reconstruct the chimney that's on the outside corner of the house.
Cool.
There's one internal chimney that we're not going to be restoring, but the original one that was on the outside of the house at the what would be southwest corner, we'll be taking the bricks and rebuilding it. So.
Oh, that's kind of cool, using the old stuff that was there, have a history. So what are the plans for the house? Because it's like, was there a basement in there? It was all above ground, so there's like 1, 2...
4 floors.
4 floors.
Yeah. Yeah, we will be the house is about, I think it's a little over 7,000 square feet in size. Once we've restored the decks and the verandas and the like that were filled in. It's a 4-story house, so we'll be converting it into 7 condominium units.
Okay, 7. So, but what size would that be?
775 to 900 square feet, approximately. Depends again. Okay. Each one of the units in there is going to be unique because of the different templates or the floor plates that you've got in the house. So all the units in there will be. Well, I shouldn't say all but one of the units will be 2-bedroom units.
The top one, I'm assuming, would be a little smaller, or are you going to incorporate 2 floors?
No,
for that?
The top one will be 1 unit. That'll be a 1-bedroom and den, and then there'll be a large rooftop deck out in the back corner of that one.
Oh, okay. And are you adding any of the historic things particularly in the house, because I love heritage houses, are you adding any kind of historic, like some stained glass, for example? Are you adding any of that kind of stuff to some of the suites? Are you completely doing...
Probably not. Well, as I say, we had to gut everything on the inside. So pretty much all the stuff that's going back on the inside will be contemporary. With a nod to the historic past of the house in terms of the specifications that we'll be picking, for instance, for cabinets and all that sort of stuff. We'll restore some of the elements in there that we can. For instance, all the wood windows will be, replicating or restoring those where we can. We'll get a new door fabricated, for instance, for the front door that will mimic what was there in the past. The old door that was there had been replaced by, just a flat panel, kind of boring 60s era door. So yeah, we'll be redoing the house with a nod to,
to the history.
Its past. Yeah.
What about things like I know I've seen it when it was being rented out. What about things like for condominiums, when it's like escapes and that kind of thing? How do you incorporate that into an old style
I mean,
house.
like fire escapes?
And stuff like that, yeah.
Well, that's always a challenge.
Yeah.
We actually will be incorporating an enclosed fire escape at the back of the house because, like most of these old homes, they just had one stairwell that came in and served for the house because that was at one time a single-family home. So we'll be, we've come up with the solution after much angst to deal with the exiting requirements and to meet all the other code requirements today that you have with these things. Everything from fire codes to seismic to rain screen and all the things like that come up.
How do you deal with the rain screen? Because you're not working from the, you know what I mean? You're working sort of in it rather than out in some ways,
Yeah, we'll have to put rain screen on the outside of the house. And the one thing that we'll also have to do is typically the homes were cladded in sort of 1 by 10 or 1 by 12 lath, which doesn't meet today's seismic requirements, so we have to cover that in plywood to provide shear wall and bearing capacities. And then after that we'll just do a pretty conventional detail, but we'll be putting back, we saved a bunch of the wood siding and we'll be restoring that and putting that back on the house and then replicating the siding that that we either couldn't restore or that was rotten.
Was there wood flooring?
There was some, but not a lot. Most of it had been ripped out probably in the 50s.
And carpets or whatever.
Carpets, linoleum, in some cases 3 or 4 layers of linoleum, tiles, everything else.
So you mentioned that the house is condominiums.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be condominiums,
Yep.
so they'll be sold.
Yep.
What about the townhomes? Is it totally like for sale for people
Yes.
to buy?
Yep.
Okay, and so are you reaching out are you doing the whole project? Some condominiums, when they're built, right?
Yep.
They reach out ahead of time. People can...
You mean pre-sales?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Are we doing pre-sales? We weren't planning on it. We've had quite a bit of interest, though, so we may consider that in the months ahead. I think that one of the things that we need to do is get a little further along in the project to sort of understand exactly what it is
you're
that you've got
facing
in it.
for real.
Well, so that people can actually come in and see and appreciate the space. Right now the inside of the house is just gutted back to the studs, so you really can't get a sense as to what the individual units are going to look like. And similarly for the townhomes, we need to get a few of them built so that people can come in and actually sort of see what they are, understand the space, understand where various different things are going to be, where are the bedrooms, and so on and so forth. So what we may do in a couple of months is do, I guess, what I call hard hat tours, where we get people some gumboots and hard hats and take them for a tour through the site, and then do some pre-sales at that point.
One step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time. We haven't got there yet.
So you must like heritage houses. You're living in one yourself.
Yep.
Why the attraction to heritage houses and that kind of building?
I don't know. It's a bad habit. No, I think a lot of homes, particularly this one, are unique. I think they're a nod to the past, and I think a lot of them are worth saving. And I just happen to particularly like them. I mean, I can't explain why. They're old, they're drafty, they, and all those things that go along with them. They need lots of maintenance, a lot more maintenance than a new home does, and I love them. So.
Well, I lived in a heritage house, and there's, as much as modern buildings can be well constructed, and as we all know, especially condominiums, sometimes they're built very quickly, cheaply, not so well. And when I lived in this heritage house, and it wasn't considered heritage, but it was an old house that had been in the family forever. Yeah. We're talking wood beams, putting the house together so thick, there's no way you'd find anything like that. Everything's very solid, even though it might be drafty.
Yeah.
So what's to be said about how we build now and how we used to build?
Well, a lot of the materials that they built with then just simply aren't available now. We salvaged some enormous sort of 8 by 8 and 10 by 10 Douglas fir beams from there that were old growth lumber. Yeah. And that quality of material just simply isn't available anymore. We've actually taken the beams and we're going to get that converted into furniture because it's quite unique stuff.
Cool.
And of course, there's been a lot of changes over the years to sort of building codes and all the other sort of things. I think part of it too is the uniqueness of old homes that you just can't replace them. So, and the style that they were built in, typically in the Craftsman style or the Edwardian style or whatever they were, they just don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So, if you live in one of these old homes, chances are it's unique or you won't see many examples of them elsewhere, as opposed to,
the standard
factory production homes that you see nowadays, which are pretty much identikits that are built all over the place. So I think that's probably part of the appeal to them too as well.
So why did you pick the home that you're living in? And I could be wrong, but are you also still fixing your own home up? And why did you pick the home you picked?
Well, we picked it, I guess, about 10 or 11 years ago. My wife found it one day when she was out for a jog, actually, and so we just said, well, let's have a look at it. It was in dreadful shape. It, was deteriorating and needed a lot of work. And am I still fixing it? Yes. But you never stop fixing it when they're old homes. But you know what? That home that we're living in now still had a lot of the old features left in it. It had, the old fireplace and a lot of the old bricks and the other details and things like that, which, as I said earlier, are just, things that I find attractive about those old homes. So, but, it needs lots of maintenance, and all the old wood siding needs to be, attended to and maintained and all that sort of stuff. So so I'm still working on it. Maybe someday I'll get finished.
So what's next for this project on Salisbury?
The next step is to construct the foundations and get the house set back down, because right now it's perched up in the air on blocks.
Looks scary to me.
Yeah. And once the house has been set back down, then we'll start construction inside the house. I mean, we stripped everything out, but we need to start, putting it back together again. And then the rest of the project, well, you've obviously seen some of the townhomes that are being constructed right now. We'll finish building the parkade, and we expect the whole process will be done hopefully by the end of this year.
So you're going to start with the house first and then move to the townhouses, or sort of do everything at once?
It just depends. It's all taking place at once. And, the framing crew is working on the townhomes now. When they're finished that in a couple of weeks, they'll move to the house. When the house is, when we've got the foundations in for that, and then once the parkade is done, they'll move over there. So it just really is, we'll have trades moving around the site to wherever we need them at any given time.
So at this point, it'll probably get done fairly fast, because I was kind of surprised. I thought the house had just been moved, and then seeing the other townhouse structures, it kind of surprised me. So
yeah, we moved about 3 weeks ago, and it's just been sitting up there ever since. So it's actually, the process, it just took a day to move the house. It's actually pretty quick, and I've never moved a house like that before, so it was a learning experience for everybody. And
so how do you feel about sort of being interested in this project, and now you're part of it and it's actually happening?
Good. It's great. We spent, the approvals process took, about a year or so to go through and come up with the designs and go through the approvals process and the like. It was nice to actually go and break ground, which we did back in, I guess, late November, early December, and actually start to see some progress on site. So, we're running into, a myriad of surprises. Every day there's a new surprise on site, but nothing that isn't manageable, and it's actually enjoyable to, to see the results at the end of the day.
Well, I want to see it. I particularly want to see the house when you start putting the apartments, condominiums in there.
Well, we'll take you for a tour.
Good. All right. Well, thanks a lot
You're
for
welcome.
doing this. Thank you for joining us. Good night.